Welcome to our 14th episode of Black Dance Stories. Here's a note about why we are here. Our dance world was pummeled by COVID-19, and Black dance artists are finding ways to talk about life during this time. Our world was further turned upside down after horrible events ensued nationally and globally, bringing attention yet again to the need for the Black Lives Matter movement. Black dance artists have not been quiet since. Black dance artists have been doing the work. Black dance artists continue to make work. To stay involved, we hold these weekly impromptu discussions and tell stories. Black dance stories. This is one action, and we make a promise to you that we will stay involved. Look at all the beautiful faces here. We are a community working together to support, uphold, highlight, and celebrate Black creatives. Tonight is our 14th episode of what we hope will be many stories told in the artist's own voices. Thanks to each and every one of you so far for showing up and for witnessing. But please help to spread the word. Tonight, it's Davalois Fearon and Kevin Iega Jeff's turn. Because it's the beginning of another month of our stories, we proudly want to introduce you to just some of our growing BDS team. I'll go first. Look at all the faces. I love us. I am Charmaine Warren. I am a Jamaican. I am the great granddaughter of Ida Boyd, granddaughter of Solomon Golson and Ruby Chapman, and daughter of Theophilus Warren and my 94-year-old mother, Pearline Warren, who lives in Jamaica. I am a non-disabled Black woman. With the utmost respect to the Native people, I acknowledge that I live on the stolen land of the indigenous Lenape, now known as Montclair, New Jersey, with my husband, Tony Turner. Our daughter, Ashe Turner, a Black ballerina with locks, is going into her junior year at Boston Conservatory. I have locks that are pulled up in large Bantu knots. I'm wearing a Black blouse and large earrings with drops of color. Behind me are photos of our family, a large plant, a lamp, and African masks. Dance is my happy place, and each week I am so honored to share this special place with you and to share some of the team also with you today. I am so honored to be in this place of dance and more with so many of you. I turn it over to Kimani.
Thank you, Charmaine. Hello, everyone. Thursday nights, my happy place too, Charmaine. The importance of acknowledging our familial and dance legacies is an essential tradition. With deep respect and honor, I want to acknowledge the Lenape people, whose stolen land I am zooming from, currently known as the village of Harlem. I am a Black, non-disabled woman, and I live with my 9-year-old son. I am sitting in my dining room. I have a golden low-cut hairstyle with a Black top and big silver hoop earrings. I am the granddaughter of Lucille Madison. She was 104 when she transitioned. I teach because of her. Daughter of Ronald Augustus Fowlin, Jamaican warrior, and Anne Fowlin, Renaissance woman. I dance because of them. My son Tamayo keeps me present with the fascination of a blossoming young visual artist. And now I pass it to Nick.
Thank you, Kimani. Hi, everyone. I'm Nicholas Xavier Hall. I'm Haitian American. I'm a Black, non-disabled man. I was born in Brooklyn to Sheila and Curtins Hall. My family, including my sisters Isabella and Victoria, now live in Montclair, which is on Solon Lenape land. I'm also a recent graduate of the Ailey Fordham BFA program. I'm currently in a white room wearing a navy blue paisley shirt. Behind me is a Matisse painting and twinkling string lights. Now I'm going to pass things over to Tony Turner.
Hello, and good evening, and welcome to Thursday night, another exciting night of Black Dance Stories. This is in all the madness, this is that spot that takes us away and reminds us that art is important. I am Tony Turner, son of Joy and Wanza, on the stolen land from the Lenape people. I'm an artist and photographer, as my father was. And now I'd like to pass it to Caitlin.
Hi everybody, my name is Caitlin Chandler. I'm a non-disabled Black woman with extremely nappy hair, wearing a white shirt, and I have a bookcase, and I'm in a white room. I live currently on stolen Lenape land that is now known as Brooklyn, New York, and I am the video tech for Black Dance Stories. And I'm going to pass it over to Kamani.
Thank you, Caitlin. So there are two others that are part of the BDS family that I just want to also say their name because they're very important. Gabe de Coladenu, who is our web designer, and Cynthia Tate, our publicist. And we are so grateful. So I just want to remind everybody, please, oh my goodness, my heart is beating fast. Please vote. 33 days left and counting. Please.
Oh.
The census, I know that they've cut it short, but please, if you still can fill it out so we can be counted. And in terms of counting, money is important for us to keep doing the work that we're doing. And these stories are so important. So please consider donating, right? Consider this a show that you would pay for a ticket to see, please. In the chat, you'll see the links that you can, and also on screen, it will say, thank you, Caitlin, for doing that.
Yes.
And with that, I will pass it back to Nick. Oh, you're muted.
Thank you, Kimani. I just want to remind everyone to put their name in the chat, say a quick hello. A big part of Black Dance Stories is the community, so we want to know who's viewing with us tonight. Also, while you're there, please subscribe to our channel, give us a like, leave a comment. Also follow our Instagram at Black Dance Stories. And please, please, please follow our Twitter. It's at BLK Dance Stories. We'd really love the support there.
Come on, Twitter people.
Pull up, come on. And with that, I'm going to propose a cheers to Black Dance Stories. So if you'd like to grab a glass of wine, a cocktail, a glass of water, whatever makes you happy, but cheers to Black Dance Stories.
Cheers. And Caitlin's coffee. Cheers.
And with that cheers, this is an important part that I want us to continue kind of holding almost like libation. Our BDS team will continue to stand in solidarity with all those who want an immediate end to systemic racism.
Yeah.
Ongoing instances of police brutality prove the need for support from Black Dance Stories and the larger community. So please, for that, I drink and we drink. Thank you.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Charmaine, I pass it to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good night to Caitlin, who's in the background doing lots. Good night to Tony. Thank you, Tony, for showing up today. Gabe and Cynthia, we love you and we see you in spirit. And Kimani and Nick, see you in a little bit.
See you.
See you, see you. Another evening with you fabulous folks out here. Oh my gosh, it's time to bring Dava in. Dava. Come on in and say hello to the people. Cheers.
Cheers. Hello.
Cheers. Cheers. Oh, so good to have you.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here.
So introduce yourself.
All right. Well, hello.
And then share your world with the people.
All right. Well, my name is Davalois Fearon. I go by Dava. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I'm currently coming to you from Brooklyn, which is the stolen land of the native Lenape people. And I am the daughter of Victoria Ricketts, the granddaughter of Gladys Ricketts. I am also the daughter of Davalois Fearon. I'm the mother of Pepper Irie McGinnis. I am the wife of Mike McGinnis, and I am the sister of Clifton, Moya, Roseanne, Nicole, Peter Gay, Daniel, Damar. Got a big family. And I am the auntie and grand auntie of many little lovely nieces and nephews and uh, family that I'm very happy to call into this space. I am a non-disabled Black woman with kinky hair, and it's in twists right now. I'm wearing a gray dress with a brown necklace that I got from my very close friend, Tess Montoya, and I'm wearing earrings that I got from my husband. And I would like to just kind of take a moment to acknowledge the times and how grateful I am for this opportunity, for this space, for this moment to just kind of be with Black dance artists and the larger dance community, but in general, a place where Black dance artists can come together and feel, I feel whole. I feel whole just being in this space. So my dance story, my Black dance story. All right, now I was born in Mandeville, which is in Jamaica. It's in Manchester. Georges Valley is where my mother is from, and that's where I get the core of my Black dance. It is from Jamaica. And growing up in the Bronx, we came over when I was about 4 years old. So it's 1989 in the Bronx, and there was a lot of Latin people there. So I was learning salsa, merengue, bachata. I was in the playground learning step dance from my beautiful Black American friends. I was learning hip hop. Hip hop was being created in front of me. It was such a joy to grow up in what a lot of people would call impoverished, or a lot of people would call, a food desert, or a place that is lacking culture and all of those things. But it was very rich. It was such a rich upbringing that gave me the fundamentals of what it means to move my body the way I move my body. And Alvin Ailey had a outreach program, which I'm going to rephrase that. Thank you to Urban Bush Women and all the wonderful work that they do in community engagement. I think it's more important to say it's community engagement that was done. And my very first formal ballet teacher was Mr. Ron Alexander, and he came and taught an 8-week program when I was in the 7th grade. And that was just enough foundation, just enough exposure to concert dance so that it allowed me to actually audition for one of the highly sought after schools. So I don't know how much y'all know about New York City and the politics that goes into getting into the top tier high schools, but it is a mess. It is a big mess in terms of, from birth, we have people doing tutors and preparing for these tests and taking private lessons and doing all these things to be able to audition for the likes of LaGuardia, the likes of professional performing arts. Here I am with my amazing, rich background. When people say, when did you start dancing? I was brainwashed, and I used to say, I started dancing when I started taking ballet, because that's usually what they mean, right? But now I say, out the womb. I was dancing out the womb. And if it wasn't for me dancing, doing the bachata, doing merengue, doing salsa, doing all those things, I wouldn't have been able to pick up ballet and know how to tell my body how to point my foot, or how to basically copy Angela Gomez. She was standing in front of me for both auditions, LaGuardia and PPAS. Thank you, Angie, wherever you at, because you had some training and I was able to follow you. And that was how I got into professional performing arts, because I couldn't get the steps. I didn't know what first position, second position, anything. I mean, the 8-week program was enough for me to understand the culture of concert dance in the classroom. But what I loved about what Mr. Alexander did was he allowed us to bring our culture to it. So, when we did our presentation, I was doing my little tandus at the bar. I did an entre chakat, but then I was also doing it to "This Is How We Do It," and I mixed it up, and I was able to put in my culture into what I was being exposed to. So Angie, thank you, girl. I followed you like a hawk, and I got into professional performing arts. I have to big up my sister. She's 2 years older than me. She had a guidance counselor who recognized her talents, who knew that she was very intelligent and could have gotten into Bronx Science and all these places that folks with money, folks with access were able to bring their kids to. But my sister unfortunately fell short. Us being immigrants, we didn't understand the bureaucracy of how to get into certain um, places and spaces to prepare yourself for a specialized high school. And so her aspirations at that time was to be a secretary, but the guidance counselor said, "Oh no, honey, you need to have a secretary." So the guidance counselor helped her navigate these really hard to get into schools and all of that nature, but she didn't have the foundation to get where she needed to go, and so she ended up going to Clinton. And so her job was, or her mission was like, I'm going to make sure Dava gets into one of these top tier schools. She filled out everything because my parents didn't know about how to get their kids into high school. So my sister, who's 2 years older than me, filled out all the applications. She at the time there wasn't Google Maps, so she figured out, looking on the train, how to get us from North Bronx, which is basically near Burke Avenue, which is 4 stops basically away from Westchester, all the way to 48th and 9th. And I remember it was one of the first times I left the Bronx, to go audition for high school. And I didn't understand it at the time, but now I understand that my sister helped change my life. Like, if it wasn't for her, and I'm gonna get emotional, but if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here right now. She was the only one who was a big sister among parents. And these are parents that have been preparing their kids from 2 years old to get into these specialized high school. And my sister is waiting for me while I'm auditioning. And I had to get my unitard from the lingerie store, because in the Bronx where I was living at the time, there was no dance shops. So the closest thing I saw was the cat suit in the lingerie store. So I got me a cat suit, honey. I put on my socks. I didn't have ballet shoes, and I auditioned in socks and a cat suit. And my sister took me to that audition, and I thank her for making sure that I got there. I didn't know what I was doing, so I'm very thankful to her. And professional performing arts was the high school experience that prepared me for going to SUNY Purchase. And SUNY Purchase was a culture shock for me, because here I am coming from the Bronx, where all my teachers were white, but majority of the student population was either immigrant or Black American. And high school was about half were white, and then everybody else was other. College, I think Purchase at the time was only 9 or 7% not white. So I was just kind of like in a sea of whiteness. I think my class, my freshman class, we were like 63 folks, and I could count on one hand the non-white folks. So I went home every weekend. I was like, I need to go back to the Bronx. I didn't know why I needed to go back to the Bronx. I didn't know why I was having such a hard time at Purchase. But that training, because professional performing arts was linked with Ailey. So and now I know I had Black representation. I had, all the Black, amazing people that I was looking up to everywhere I turned. And then that was gone when I went to Purchase. So when I graduated and I got into the Stephen Petronio company, whoop, whoop, that kind of continued in terms of like still being in a world where I'm like, okay, there's not too many of people who look like me around here. But I wasn't, ready to kind of understand what that meant. Dancing with the Petronio company and seeing the world and being exposed to postmodern thought and somatic sensibilities led me to going to UWM, where I was going to get my master's. And that's where I feel I became a choreographer. during that experience at University of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where I had basically been taught to replicate movement. Um, and I kind of lost that little Black girl who was doing salsa, merengue, bachata, and doing all those things, right? And when I started choreographing, I only started choreographing because my husband, who's a musician, was like, I got all this music. If only I had a choreographer. So the jealous woman in me was like, well, I'm not about to let somebody else choreograph to my man's music. Not on my watch. So despite myself, I choreographed to his music. And in 2013, I put my first work out there on a professional stage at Roulette in Brooklyn, petrified, absolutely petrified. And I got on the phone with my sister and I was like, Moya, I don't know what I'm doing. You know, I'm here choreographing, but I don't know if this is me or if I'm doing this because of him. You know, I need to go back to school and get a real job because that's what my parents always told me. I'm about to be a psychologist. So, you know, this, what am I doing? You know, I'm supposed to dance for 10 years and then retire. What is that mess that they tell folks, right? That's craziness. So I did that performance, and then I met actually someone who saw me at the Petronio company, and he was going to be the keynote speaker in I want to say Tajikistan, about water. And I was like, oh well, I know about water issues coming from Jamaica. So he's like, oh yes, yes, amazing. So what are you doing about it? What am I supposed to be doing about water issues? I don't have any money like that. Like, what kind of question is that? And then I said, what do I have? I have dance. And so it was that challenge that, and he's a UN ambassador, right? And he's going around the world trying to save the world. And that it was that challenge that he proposed to me. And I think he came to see me perform with the Petronio company, and I had a spread in the New York Times, and then he emailed me after that. So at first I was like, oh, is this is strange, you know, fan mail, and it was weird for me at the time. And but anyhow, I did meet him and talk to him, and he was absolutely fine, and actually was a great person to mentor me through that transition where I started thinking like, okay, well, I can use dance as a platform for social change. I can make a piece that kind of points to some of the issues that I've witnessed in my life. And so Consider Water was born, and Mama Charmaine so graciously presented it at Harlem Stage. And from Harlem Stage, I was so fortunate to be able to present it and premiere it at the Joyce. And so the Joyce was somewhere I was performing with the Petronio company for at that time since I was 20 or something. So here we are all these years later, now coming back there as a choreographer was mind blowing. And the Joyce was the one who kind of like challenged me to say, okay, honey, you can't just be saying you doing pickup choreography with folks anymore. Like you have to establish a company. And so that was in 2017 when I founded the Davalois Fearon Dance Company. And the mission is to push artistic and social boundaries, because that was what the impetus to make Consider Water was to use the arts to push social boundaries and also artistic boundaries, where I collaborate with multimedia, different types of artists to kind of have this, create this world for audiences to have this visual and audio experience where they're being challenged to really think and sit with a social issue. And when I went to UWM, it was after doing all of this kind of undoing and really digging deep and thinking about why was I blocking myself from who I was supposed to be, which is this little Black girl who always was making dances from when I was young. You know, my sister reminded me, like, I used to flip off her back all the time. So when I went to UWM and got put back into the student place of this is how you do it, it was very hard for me. And so that's where I really feel my choreographic person was born, because I had to fight for it. I had to fight for my vision. I had to fight to make sure I didn't lose who I was, because I had grown up. When you immigrate to America, you learn to segregate yourself. You learn to be who you are at home, but then the minute you step outside, you leave that person at home, and you become what society expects you to be. and I became the dancer that I was groomed to be. And I had to reconnect with who I was in terms of, you know, coming from a place where me never chat patois, me no chat patois, because the kids would make fun of me, right? So learning that it's okay now, I wind up a storm in my pieces. You know, I'm doing the bogle in my pieces, where in the past I was like, you know, I'm gonna do an undulation, you know, the modern undulation. No, me, I can do the bogle, which is very, it's, you know, we're undulating the spine, yes, but where did that come from in terms of why is it in my body? So now no longer segregating the self and being a whole person, bringing my fullness to all my spaces, and having to fight for that no matter where I am. That was a wonderful lesson that I learned, and I'm continuing to fight, and I'm continuing to push to make sure that when I'm in a space, I'm not asked to leave part of me at home. You know, you're gonna take all of me. So I'm super grateful for that experience. That was very challenging, very challenging. And we're in another challenging time in terms of COVID, and my company is celebrating our third now fiscal year, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yeah, we're going into our fourth fiscal year. Yeah, isn't that crazy? And we're going completely remote because of COVID. And what we've decided to do is take advantage of the opportunity that connecting virtually allows you to do. We can stream performances, which, speaking of, we'll be streaming for CJ October 23rd. So please email for CJ at Davalois Fearon in order to not miss out on that opportunity. We're also going to be kicking off Time to Talk Part 2. So Time to Talk was my thesis. That was my, you could say, coming into my own piece, where, again, Mama Charmaine was my guiding light in terms of my mentor to help me accomplish that. And so it's only fitting that we get to circle back and talk about Time to Talk today, right? So that was something that I did in 2016. What does Time to Talk mean today? And that piece was basically looking at racial bias in dance, in academia, and in society at large. Like, how do I unpack the dance training and use that as a vehicle to talk about the ways in which we can see racial bias manifesting. And so, following the 4CJ virtual premiere, we're gonna have a dialogue, and we're gonna keep talking. So there's so much to talk about, and there's so much to be grateful for. I'm super grateful to all the dancers, all my dancers that have danced with me, from Jackie Medlock to Lucia Rodriguez, Morgan Anderson, OG, who was there from the absolute beginning. We did a performance together outside where my husband tried to quit on us. We were in Yonkers on some concrete where a cop car tried to drive through our performance. Yes. And my husband was like, oh, and then the mic was feedbacking while he was trying to play clarinet into the mic. And so, you know, back then when I was a mess, I remember looking into the mirror while her and I were getting ready in the library, a bathroom for children. So the sink was down to our knees, and we were there trying to put our makeup on, you know, in this sink. And I said, Morgan, I promise you, we're going to have a proper performance one day. We're going to be on a fierce, fabulous stage one day. We are going to not ever do this type of stuff again. And then 3 years later, we were at the Joyce, and I was like, Morgan, we were looking and we were beating our faces at the Joyce. And I was like, I told you. Oh, I hear a little nugget. Okay, that's my little daughter. Okay, all right, baby cakes. Mom, I'm on the air. Oh, okay, so that was Pepper.
Why can't we meet her?
Oh, because husband will kill me.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Oh,
she's not allowed to be on.
Oh, yes, I agree.
Yeah. So we're keeping her protected, and it's time. It's crazy times. It's crazy times, y'all. We have to be careful with how much we put out there in terms of all this. Whew. Yeah, it's a little scary, but yeah. So
I wonder if you could tell us a little bit more, because you mentioned them,
mhm.
for CJ and Time to Talk. Just encapsulate them a little bit and then put a year on them.
Yes. So so Time to Talk was 2016, and that one was kind of where I built in all of the knowledge that I hadn't gotten through American education, where they don't teach you about Black dance history. I'm sorry, not dance history. I'm sorry, Black people, period. Like in terms of what the Black experience is, and as a Jamaican immigrant, that's something that we I'll speak for myself. My family came into this country not knowing a lot of Black history, and so when I went to get my master's, I needed to know the experiences of the people who looked like me, and so that piece allowed me to do a lot of research on the African American experience, and I used that research to create Time to Talk. And out of Time to Talk, 3 years later, oh no, I'm sorry, I started working on for CJ in 2017, because my nephew passed away from a fatal asthma attack. And it was a continuation of this research of like the medical field is also uh, rampant, just like racism touches all parts of America. And so I created this work to specifically look at how environmental things like urban planning and pollution and things of that nature put together with a medical field with medical practices that have been rooted in a white supremacist framework, how they come together to create the fact that 3 to 4 urban youths of color will die from they're 3 to 4 times more likely to die from an asthma attack than their white counterparts. So I created a work that I started working on in 2017, that the for CJ piece that kind of tells that story in a very abstract, in a super abstract way. So those are kind of like the evening length works that kind of have been the bedrock of the Davalois Fearon Dance Company. Yeah.
And just remind everybody about October 20.
October 23rd. It is a Friday. 7 o'clock is going to be the virtual premiere, and 8 o'clock will be the follow-up discussion with Mama Charmaine.
Oh, yay. Yay. I know you wanted to share something else. Do you want to do it now, or do you want to talk more? We still have a little time.
Oh, I do. Oh, why did I think I was done? I thought I was done at 6:33. At 6.
Almost, but
Oh,
you have a tiny little bit of time. Tiny.
a tiny bit. Okay. Remind me what I said I was gonna share. Cause
The clip.
huh?
The clip.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
You don't have to.
okay. Okay. Well, how much more time do I have? Because I was thinking about let's share the clip. We can share the clip.
You want to show it? All right, Caitlin. Let's show the clip. We are back. Well,
Yeah, so that was from this March at the Brick Lab residency that I had right before everything shut down. I think it was like a couple of days right before we all went on lockdown.
yeah. Wow. Well, thanks for that. As I do some shout outs, it's time to bring Iega in and we'll do a little cheers.
Cheers!
Cheers, cheers, cheers. Come on in, Iega, while we do some shout out. There's some people here ready to see y'all. There's some people here. So Ann Davison is here. Amy Casello is here. Amandi, I think that says, I can't read my writing. Elizabeth Zimmer is here. Yotande. Trevian Pollard is here. Tats is here. Wendy Parent, Jay Bowie, Cynthia Oliver, Michaela Ware, A.K. Jones, you're here. Renee Redding Jones. Janae Elizabeth, Lucy Sexton, hey Lucy, Carol Marie Webster, Laura Marchese Montclair in the house, and did I say Cynthia Oliver? Yes. Y'all, Madame Diane McIntyre is here. What? Cheers, Iega, welcome.
Welcome. Pleasure to be here.
So I'm gonna say ciao, and y'all have a little time together. Enjoy your time together.
Beautiful. See you, Charmaine. Deva, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
You had a moment that touched me when you were talking about your sister, I believe.
Yes.
Can you tell me about your sister and what runs deep in your veins?
What runs deep in my veins, I guess it's just her commitment. Like, she believed in me before I believed in myself. She is very introverted. She's not very talkative, doesn't really go out much. But she would perform when I asked her to perform. You know, when I was like 4, 5, 6 years old, bouncing off the walls, and I needed a choreograph, and she was available. She's 2 years older than me, and I would ask her, and I remember asking her recently, like, why did you do that? Like, knowing your personality, knowing who you are, that is so against everything that you are about. And she was just like, I had to. I wanted to support you. So I'm gonna get choked up again, but having that kind of unconditional support, unconditional love, knowing her now and thinking about all the sacrificing that she had to do in terms of her personality, like everything was comfortable for me. All the mistakes that or missed opportunities that she wasn't able to get, she would turn around and say, okay, Deva, do this on the SATs, or do that, or make sure you apply here. Or, during COVID times, she's like, okay, read this book about financial literacy and get into cryptocurrency and, watch this documentary. So she's always been kind of like this guiding light, just on the forefront. And I am always indebted to her because, I can't do that for her, because I'm always showing up late to the show because she's always a couple of steps ahead. And so that type of love is something that always touches me. And
where is she now?
She's in Texas.
Okay.
She moved to Texas, so we Zoom. I'm grateful for Zoom.
Yeah, family has been so key, I'm sure, to all of us. And some of us are blessed with families that work with us and help to shape us. And I know I had that myself. And when you were speaking of your sister, I immediately reflected on my sisters. One one of which has passed away. She passed in 1989. And the other is Laverne Jeff, who has Alzheimer's now,
Oh,
you know? And anyone that knew Laverne knew that she was a force of nature. Both of my sisters were force of natures, you know? Alzheimer's robs you of who you are. So I'm present to my new Laverne, so to speak, you know, because that's the way I had to manage it, is that the sister that I knew before, she's still in there, you know, but this sister that I have now is my new Laverne. And once I sat in the car with a dear friend of mine, Obadiah, because I hadn't seen my sister directly for a period of time. And then when I saw her, there was such a shift in her health. And I saw that something was really awry with her health before we really got a diagnosis of what was going on. And I remember sitting in the car that night, and my friend said, he just listened to me in my lament. And then Obadiah finally said, you know, you can't fix this, but you can show up, you know? He said, the most important thing for you to do is just to keep showing up. And that's what I've been doing with her. And inside of that, I've discovered this new Laverne that has really helped to shape me at this time in my life in ways that I appreciate, I value, and you know, it's just the depth of family and connections and the blessings that I've had with that. You never know what's going to happen with your family, so love them up, be connected, and treasure them for as long as you can.
yeah, I absolutely agree. And thank you for sharing that story, because I don't think we take enough time to talk about our humanity, you know, like our fullness of ourselves as feeling, thinking, breathing, performing people. And I love the tradition of honoring the people who helped you get
Yeah,
who you are and help shape you, because I don't think anybody's, you know, self-made. That's just my opinion. I think we are all a product of our community.
absolutely. Whether we realize it or not, you know. And you hit on something earlier too. Just you know, I think being Black in America are two things for me. I kind of see it through two lenses. One is the fact that we are in a space where we've been victimized. And while that is true, the only way you can remedy that is to understand that you're not a victim, you know, and to understand how what we're experiencing links to a continuum of karma, if you will. There's something inside of it that we have to unpack to understand why our color is having these issues with people who are not colored like us. You know, doesn't justify it. You know, it doesn't justify that this should happen, but there is a reason why this is happening, and we should unpack that. And so the other side of that is, in the unpacking, we are working to survive and working to be connected to who we really are as we live in America. So we're conditioned to and socialized to behave or align ourselves with success criteria that doesn't affirm who we are. And inside of that, we are challenged to be our authentic selves. You know, so a lot of our journey is to really just fortify ourselves for liberation, to really just decide we're going to be liberated. And inside of what you've communicated this evening, that's been so inspiring to hear, that you made that decision, that your work would be about your liberation.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna need you to say that again. So you said success roadmaps that doesn't affirm who we are. I didn't say it right. It's a good quote. I want to write this. It was good.
Yeah, I think that we're socialized in America as Black people to
Criteria.
value a success criteria that really doesn't affirm who we are.
I can't agree more. I
Yeah.
can't agree more.
And
Yeah.
really, that's been my personal life's work, has been my personal artistic work, really. So I align with you in that way. Is that I knew intuitively as a young Black boy who was assertive and confident and lifted up by great parents, but went to school and I was told that I was arrogant and I told I was too ambitious or whatever those things are that little Black boys get told and little Black girls get told when they're supposed to behave a certain way. And fortunately, my intuitive self said that that was unacceptable. My intuitive self in society had to figure that out, because it was a web of reactions that you walk into that could reshape and diminish you, But I was very fortunate when I discovered dance, when I really understood that dance was, or the arts and then dance was going to be my path, that I walked into Bernice Johnson Dance Studio. And I walked into Bernice Johnson Dance Studio because of Keith Simmons. And I have to mention, I think what I want to share with people today are just those people who really help to make you possible.
Don't say too much yet. Don't say too much yet.
Okay.
But David, did you have anything that you wanted to talk to Iega about now, or shall we save it? Go ahead.
I had one question. So I was just wondering, in terms of your being a choreographer in longer than myself and running a company longer than myself, how have you been how have you transitioned with COVID? So in terms of achieving the mission, of the company, but COVID times, So I'm just curious about how that transition has been.
I think on a basic level, in terms of understanding the virtual assets that we have to use, pretty similarly to everyone else, is just kind of knowing that we can't do live programming in that traditional way. So now we have technology, and how do we make technology a spiritual bridge to being able to communicate art? At first, we weren't digging it. We were not really excited about it. We were like, oh, who feels like teaching through these virtual platforms? But what we decided is that we would unpack it and really deal with it in a way that would be authentic to the work. And in doing that, we didn't do things that we didn't want to do, and we discovered things that we really did want to do. And so that enabled us to do work that we're excited about. And so we started out first with a program that we gave for free in the spring, just to test the market and transition and understand what it is. Then our next program was our Summer Dance Intensive, and we set our goals for that, and we happened to exceed our goals. So we were very, very happy. And the we is deeply rooted dance theater in Chicago. And now we're about to do a virtual fundraiser, which is going to be a hybrid between live and virtual and streamed performance. So we'll have a performance in the theater, COVID observant, where we'll have 50 attendees.
Wow.
And then we'll have the streamed performances where people, wherever you are, you can see Deeply Rooted if you like. And so that'll be the first time that we're playing around with that technology. And we'll be shooting with 4 cameras. So we're hoping it'll be interesting and dynamic for the screen and all that good stuff. And then
and it will be.
Yeah.
And you know it will be. Well, cheers. Welcome.
Cool.
Welcome. I got to give some more shout outs before you take off, Deva. But Nelly Van Brammel is here. Heather Robles is here. And before you go, Deva, was it Ron Alexander?
Yes.
We have to make sure we say Ron Alexander. And Harlem Stage was E-Moves with Brad Learmont. Forgot about that.
Brad, wow, yeah.
Yeah, and Iega, Laura Greer is here. And Laura said, love Laverne. I remember Laverne. I love how these pairings bring these similar things. And I forgot that you all have sisters that. All right. Well, I'm sure there's more. See you in a minute, Deva.
Deva, you're awesome. Thank you.
Oh, welcome again, Brother Iega.
Hey, Sister Charmaine.
Introduce yourself, and we're going to listen to your story.
Are you going to go away? You really going to
No,
go?
you know I'm here.
Good. Stay. Good. Good. Okay. Well, yeah, I'm Kevin Iega Jeff, and my given name is Kevin Jeff. My chosen name is Iega. And I chose my name literally sitting on the Great Pyramid in Giza when I made my first trip to Kemet with my mentor, Leako Thompson. Prior to making the trip, he gave me a system of numerology. He shared with me a system of numerology for me to choose my chosen name. And he said, take this, we'll make the trip to Kemet, to Egypt. And if you feel inspired to find a name that describes your path, then do that, you know? And so while sitting on the Pyramid of Giza, I did my meditation and my prayers at 21. I was 21 years old at the time. And Iega came to me. It felt right, numerically it felt right. And spiritually, just on all levels, it felt right. And what it translates into, it means messenger. And it's not necessarily that I have a specific message. It's more about just being cognizant that when you create work, you are sending messages, you're sharing ideas. So be accountable, be responsible for what it is you're communicating. So that's what guides my life. You know, sometimes I rise to that occasion, sometimes I don't, but it's okay. I just use it as a map. I am the son of Willie Jeff Jr. Oh man, what a father! What a great father! And this is a man who fought to have an education, which he never received in the Jim Crow South. Because he couldn't receive the education because of the racism, he found his way, he fought his way once he became a young man to New York. And he joined, he went into the army, he went into the he fought for the Korean War. And after coming home from the Korean War and not having liberation after defending his country, he found liberation in opening and going to work as a dry cleaners, because there were some women in Aiken, South Carolina, where he was from, that gave him the nuts and bolts of the dry cleaning business. So that is where he actualized his life. And he used the dry cleaning business as a way to help other people become possible. He loved the dry cleaning business. That blew me away because I worked in it and I didn't love it. I was happy that I worked in it, but I did it through discipline and through the fact that he said, you're going to work. But he had a passion and a love for it that I had such tremendous respect for. So my daddy is Willie Jeff Jr. My mama is Bessie Louise Andrews. And Bessie Louise Andrews was a force of nature. Talk about strong women. The blessings that I've had in my life is the fact that I expect women to be strong. And I was kind of spoiled because they, aside from the fact that women expected for me to be strong, the women that I encountered in my family, the women that I encountered in dance, the women that I encountered in education, they all were strong women. And so when I went out into the world, I just took it for granted that women were strong and they were honored and they were respected and they were listened to and valued. And then I realized that they weren't, you know, and I realized that I was really, really blessed to be reared in a community where women were honored, even though the nation didn't honor women the way that they should be. So maybe we'll come back to that later and unpack that more. My sisters are Laverne Alafia Jeff, as I alluded to earlier. She's my queen sister, brilliant, brilliant mind that is no longer healthy. So she's my new Laverne, but she has touched so many lives, including mine. And when I visit her in nursing homes, I see that powerful light within her. So she's still in there. You know, she just has to live the rest of this life with this body until this body is done. And then her spirit will come back in the next life and she'll be fine. My other sister, Denise Naima Jeff, she was another force of nature. She was a costume designer, brilliant costume designer, brilliant hair designer. She worked for the hair salon Knaps, doing natural hair care at a time when it was not popular, working with Ademola Mandela, and he is just brilliant. And so those two, when they met each other, it was just love, just artistic, creative love. And she spent many years working with him and many years working with my company, Jubilation, aside from just doing her life and having a beautiful daughter named Nia, who's my niece. Yeah, that's my other sister who left the planet in 1989, I think it was. My brother, John Jeff, just left the planet. Yeah, he just left the planet in 2019. Yeah, he was a locksmith for the for Rikers Island. So, and he was excellent. He loved doing that job. He loved the people, I should say. He loved the people that he worked with. I don't know that he liked the environment too much. But most important to him, he was a fisherman. He was a social butterfly, my brother. He made all kinds of things happen socially, and I love him and I miss him terribly. I really do miss him a lot. What I want to talk, I think my family leads to my dance family, okay? So I'm going to talk about my dance mama right now. That would be Bernice Johnson. She saw talent in me after Keith Simmons sent me to Bernice Johnson Dance Studio. She saw talent in me and she gave me a scholarship. And she said, the only thing that I want from you in return is that when you succeed, you make sure you reach back and you pull somebody else up with you. That was the philosophy that really drove the studio. She has impacted the world in a tremendous way. I'm one of so many kids that she made dance available to in her studio. In her studio, we learned how to teach. In her studio, we learned how to choreograph. In her studio, we learned how to manage. In her studio, we learned about capital plans when we didn't even realize we were learning about it. There was all kinds of osmosis learning going on in her space. In her space, people would come through that space. It was a center of dance and creation. That's where I first met Judith Jameson. And during the years when she was dancing Cry, because she would come to the studio and I remember one day when she visited BJ and she sat in the corner and she watched us dance. And I was probably 13 years old, you know? And I remember seeing Judy in the magazine with that, doing her moves from Cry. And I remember walking down the hall and seeing it put up on the bulletin board. And then I go to Bernice Johnson maybe 2 weeks later, and there she is. BJ's is a place that gave us Michael Peters who choreographed Thriller and Beat It and Dreamgirls. BJ is the place that gave us Lester Wilson, that gave us Saturday Night Fever, that gave us Golden Boy on Broadway, that gave us Solid Gold on television. I could go on and on. I could talk about Ben Vereen. I could talk about Lola Falana. I could talk about so many people that went through the studio that helped to shape some of the images that became American culture. At the studio also was Lee Ako Thompson, Now, Ako was an incredible dance artist, a powerful triple threat. I mean, he sang like Sammy Davis Jr. in his own voice. He had that kind of gift, that kind of power. His dancing was just fiery and brilliant and really focused on what he termed African pyrogrammic movement. And African pyrogrammic movement is really based in just understanding the principles of African dance connected to the spirituality and the intellect, the intellectual process of the Trinity, of connecting it all through the Trinity. And so through Ako, not only did he ready us and me specifically for dance, for a career in dance, but more importantly, my life. He gave me tools to navigate this life. He gave us tools to navigate this life. And what do I mean by that? We were sitting, we would have these long sessions that would be hosted at different locations, different houses of the dancers that were studying at the studio at the time. And so, and we would go over and we would start a discussion perhaps at 6 p.m. And the discussion, I'm not joking, would end like at 5 o'clock in the morning. We were talking from 6 p.m. until 5 o'clock in the morning. I would say this would happen at least every other month, okay? We would talk about many things, but what was really compelling for me was that he was talking about what would be the inevitable accountability that would occur at this very time that we're living right now. Literally, he would say, we're going to talk about a time where I may not be here, he said. We're going to talk about, he would talk about 2012 because he would talk about the Mayans and why that was such a significant year for the Mayans. He would talk about just this period of time that we're living in, which is 2020, from 2012 to 2020. And he would just say that what we need to be aware of is what we face through white supremacy is a part of our karma, and what America will face through white supremacy is a part of its karma. So everything that we're going through right now, we have Trump as president, we have the ramifications of race that we're facing with, we're inside of the continuing battle of understanding of Black Lives Matter and just the implications as to why that's even an issue today. It's because we're at a point of transition where we're moving to a higher state of consciousness. And in short, I'll keep it short, the arts are critical to that. And studying at Bernice Johnson Dance Studio, that was always very present in the training. So going on, being prepared from Bernice Johnson Dance Studio to go on into the High School of Performing Arts, then with the High School of Performing Arts, going into the Ailey program, being prepared to go to Juilliard after completing the High School of Performing Arts. And then while at Juilliard, performing on Broadway in The Wiz was an incredible experience, incredible experiences because I could navigate them on that foundation that I received from Bernice Johnson Dance Studio. So never was I in a world where I felt, even though the world was trying to devalue me, never was I in a world where I allowed myself to be devalued, okay? Never was I in the world where I felt as though I was better than or worse than anyone because I understood my relationship to creation and I understood that I could live in this world unapologetically Black. What I had to adjust to was the fact that how do you live in the world unapologetically Black when the world does not affirm you, okay? When you know, so in other words, I thought you could, as long as you work to develop your skill set to the highest level of your being and you were able to qualify it was disturbing to learn that it didn't matter, because it doesn't always matter, because it was a world based on relationships and people who relate to you based on how they feel and how you aligned with their thinking, essentially. So once I understood that, I realized, because of my relationship with my mentor, that I needed to create an environment where I could do work that I believe in. And so I founded, that's when I decided to found Jubilation Dance Company. And that was back in actually I did a show in 1979, which was called Jubilation, which planted the seeds for Jubilation Dance Company, which was really founded in 1981. And the focus of Jubilation was to really create an environment where Black people were not only on stage supporting the work, but really behind the scenes shaping the culture that would drive the work, that would support the work and drive the work's business. Okay, so it wasn't exclusive of non-Black people, but it was prioritized with Black people in every level of engagement. And that was incredible. We ended up touring the world over a 10-year period. We completed about 10 national tours, and I would say about 5 international tours, everywhere from, of course, Canada to the Caribbean, throughout Europe, through Africa, just all kinds of places around the world. And we were at a precipice to go to a whole nother level. We had just, as a matter of fact, I remember us just having a meeting with Bill Cuomo and our booking agent to get the cover of Dance Magazine. And a few weeks later, Bill died. Our booking agent died because why? We had ran into the AIDS epidemic. And so all of the work that occurred with the AIDS epidemic, all of the work that occurred with the company was affected by the AIDS epidemic, because it took so many people away that were key to Jubilation's infrastructure. And so that's when I decided to go in a different direction with Jubilation. I decided to focus on community-based work with Jubilation, and then begin to focus on freelance work with my own self as a choreographer. During that period, I was asked to come to Chicago and consider taking on the artistic directorship of Joseph Holmes Chicago Dance Theater. And the nutshell of that is that I went ahead and I took the position, and the whole idea was to take what I had begun in New York and bring it to Chicago within that infrastructure, because Joseph Holmes Chicago Dance Theater had also been hit by the AIDS epidemic, so there was no artistic product that was contracted to be with the company at the time that I took it on. So they felt it was a good fit for the company to transfer what I was doing artistically, to bring that to Chicago. The reality is that the work that I was doing is twofold. It's artistic, yes, it's excellent dancing, yes, that's a big part of it. But the other part of it is the spiritual track. And so really Joseph Holmes couldn't hold the mission that Deeply Rooted needed to pursue. So that's when I decided with my colleagues, Gary Abbott, Laverne Jeff, she was working with the company at the time, Diane Schober and Linda Spriggs, and we co-founded Deeply Rooted to continue the work that we had come together to do in Chicago through Joseph Holmes Chicago Dance Theater. And so 25 years later, with Deeply Rooted, I'm kind of cutting to chases here because there's so much history to try to get all this in. 25 years later, I just stepped down as artistic director of Deeply Rooted Dance Theater last October. Nicole Clark Springer, who's come through the organization for 20 plus years, is now the artistic director of the company. And we are blessed to have her. My new role is creative director, and I'm focusing on institutionalizing the company at this stage, the organization. Nick runs the dance company. I'm focusing on building a home for the company on the South Side in partnership with the University of Chicago and some and other companies that will be core partners to the space along with Deeply Rooted. We'll be a lead partner with some core partners that will be there in partnership with us. And I am also developing the special projects division of the organization, which is focused on interdisciplinary work. I've always been inspired by and have loved, like I'm a Broadway kid, I've danced on Broadway and I love interdisciplinary work. And so that's what the special projects division, it'll produce dance work, but it'll also produce work that is really about collaboration primarily. And we were to premiere a project with Donald Lawrence, the gospel artist, this past May, but of course COVID hit. We were premiering it in partnership with Broadway in Chicago. And I'm really excited about the project. It's once COVID is over, we're gonna get back to it. Absolutely. But that's on hold for right now. So that's my life in a nutshell. I think the point for me to like Dava was saying, it's really about, like David was saying, is that it's about liberation. Black dance is, the reality is that Black dance is dance for me, because when you look at the human diaspora, if life began in Africa and then a human diaspora spread out from there, then the Black footprint is all over the world. So you can't talk about classical music and not talk about the Black footprint in classical music. You can't talk about ballet without talking about the Moors and the Black footprint in ballet. You can't talk about any dance form or any cultural evolution, in terms of people and around the planet without understanding its connection to Africa. And I don't think that devalues us. I think that brings us all together. I think that when we understand that we're really connected, then the illusion that has been set up that is race is really, that's just an illusion designed to strip us down. When we understand our connections, our human connections through history and through that diaspora, that's where my creativity flows. And that's where the journey has taken me. So we'll have to dismantle racism. We'll have to face it. We'll have to call it out for what it is. But the road in doing that should help us understand our connections, it should help us value our differences and understand our connections, and then help us put to rest all of the narrative that we're hearing from a lot of our leaders these days.
I'm here trying to take notes and write, like David was saying, you have to say that again. I'm here trying, and then here we are. Value our differences and
also know our connection.
Know our connections.
Know our connection. Yeah.
Yeah. Because we have to.
Yeah, because if we don't, we will, because I think creation is stronger than some of the ignorance that we're facing. It's just that we've got to go through the ignorance to get to our brilliance. That's the way we work. That's the way people work. Yeah. We don't learn easily, No. We have hard heads. We've got to bump against the wall a few times before we get that. I'm sorry, I'm going to be straight about it, that this man doesn't need to be in office. Okay? He's there because of American fears. He's there specifically because of fears with a lot of white people and or people of color and Black people that are so invested in a system that makes them think that they're comfortable and secure until they realize that it's not. And the way that we tend to realize it is we've got to get to the pain before we're willing to do anything about You know, so we're going to sit and justify it. We're going to sit and even like right now, we're waiting for him to denounce racism. Why do I need Donald Trump to denounce racism? You know, what is that about? It's like
a horrible transition, but Deva and I have been having this same discussion. Come on back, Deva. Seriously though, but value differences and know our connections and know that our connections mean so much.
yeah.
Come on back in, Deva. Hi, you're muted.
There we go. My computer was acting slow because I was raging over here like, yeah,
I knew it.
losing my mind over here.
Knew it. I knew you would be. Oh,
Yeah, you better preach.
you better preach. All
Yeah.
right. Of course, there are friends here. Shannon Judson is here. Yay, Shannon. Jeffrey Hitchens is here.
Hey, Jeffrey.
Yeah. And Tracy Herrick, Montclair in the house. I'm talk amongst yourself because David was yelling at her computer. And I'm going to scroll down a little bit and look at some of these questions, which usually aren't questions, or share some statements from your fabulous viewers. But talk amongst yourself.
Cool.
Right. Well, I got things to ask you, things to kind of like circle back to. My gosh, where do I begin? Well, the main thing that I feel is important is what you mentioned in terms of valuing women. I thought that was really incredible. That your experience and I mean, I can't, from my perspective, you're fortunate in terms of being grounded in a place and space that valued women, that taught you the tools that you needed in order to kind of like not internalize a lot of the things that American culture would ask you to internalize. And then you said you know we might come back to it, so I just was offering the opportunity for you to come back to it.
Yeah, I think the thing is that I was in an environment where I worked with powerful women alongside powerful men. So there wasn't a lot of, I didn't work with women that felt like they were being oppressed in the environments that I was exposed, where I was exposed to them. And they were working with men that honored them, okay? It wasn't until I started working outside of the arts or leading inside of management where I could step into corporate chambers or step into different environments where women were being suppressed, okay? And I also, because I'm 6'7", I'm a big, tall Black man, I immediately saw where women expected a certain behavior or certain response from me just because of my stature, you know? And I expected women to be strong and to deal with me in their strength, but when I encountered them outside of the arts, oftentimes, I saw that they felt diminished by me as soon as I walked in the room, you know? And so I had to begin to manage that and negotiate that because it required me to, at first it seemed like it required me to be less true about my masculinity and my maleness. And I don't think that that's a remedy. I think the remedy is that that I can be fully masculine and embrace and when I say masculinity, I'm also talking, I know that men carry the X and the Y chromosomes, so I'm aware of feminine energy in me, all right? But I'm also aware of masculine energy, and I love to be in that energy with beautiful women because I think female energy is powerful. I don't think women have to try to match male energy. I think that they just need to be powerful women. And so that's it. I mean, I had to figure that out because America is such, you know, I didn't realize the gender issues, so to speak, until I became more of an adult trying to grow a business. And then I began to see the gender issues more clearly. Does that make sense?
It does, but to me, what I'm hearing, and you can tell me, correct me if I'm wrong, is and this gets challenging because I like what you talk about in terms of like human diaspora.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, when I think about the schism, and the schism is like, okay, understanding and knowing the history, but then also understanding and knowing that majority of Americans or people that we're going to be engaging with do not know this history, right? So I love what Brenda Dixon Gottschalk's book kind of revealed to me. The Black Dancing Body is, there's a passage where she talked about Alvin Ailey saying that he didn't want to be looked at as a Black choreographer, right? He's just a choreographer, and then there was the whole 80s of like wanting to push away the idea of labeling oneself as Black before what it is that we do. And thinking about my own journey between being Jamaican and then also growing up here and having a Black American experience, even though I have a Jamaican identity, but then still feeling like I have a Black American identity too, but not to the fullest extent of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just to finish off. So in terms of the way that it was wrapped up with Brenda Dixon Gottschalk made a point of like how well, putting Black in front of Black dance makes it it contextualizes it for where we are as a society, right? We're in the ignorance, as you mentioned, in terms of like we're having to go through the ignorance to get to the what did you said go through the ignorance to get to the brilliance, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost like our training wheels in terms of like using the race code or race as it is to help folks get there. So in terms of gender, white women and that identity, and Black women, we weren't from what I understand afforded femininity in the same way, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So my experience is that strength was expected of me, and now I've embraced vulnerability because I feel like sometimes when people call me strong, I'm like, is that because you can beat up on me and you don't see the bruises?
Well, I should qualify. I should make clear that strength is not. You can't be strong and not be vulnerable. In my understanding of strength. So I would never separate vulnerability from strength. Yeah. So I think the strong Black woman syndrome is a deadly syndrome. So I'm not speaking of that. And I'm glad you're asking me that, because again, that's what I mean by how I think. I don't think in Western terms at all. My socialization is I've done everything that I can in my life's journey to make sure that I liberate myself from a Western confine. Okay, I know that I have to work here and live here, so I know how to. I've worked to navigate that. But my socialization is really more African based and more human. And then beyond African, it's human. And African is human because Africa is the mother of creation, it's the mother of civilization, it's the mother of people.
Okay. Right. But I wanted to hurry. Because I heard you, I understood you, and I felt you. But I also wanted to in terms of the contextualizing of it, right? And the framing of it because of the where many of us are in terms of how we're receiving information. So I'm so happy that, because I felt that I was like, yes, yeah, I have strength and I want to be strong. And, I go into ballet classes and I want to take the quote unquote men's class and I want to jump high and I want to do the things and look at my guns and all the things. But then I also don't want it to also come in with the caveat of, but then it means I could beat up on you.
No,
not saying that that's coming from you, but I'm just saying like that's what I wholeheartedly agree with you in terms of that's the African strength unattached to what we're talking about, to what the reality is or the status is here. Yeah.
That's why I just appreciate you opening the space for that clarity to come through, because I don't feel like you feel like I'm not. I feel very aligned with what you're saying, and I think that it would have been misinterpreted had you not opened up that space. I think people would have been left with strength as that thing that gets defined through a Western paradigm, which is not what I'm speaking of. So I appreciate that. Yeah.
I want to share couple of things in alignment with that. Cynthia Oliver says, hilarious story about your husband motivating you to choreograph. Right? And Cynthia Oliver, who was on Black Stories, her husband also makes music. I'm just bringing the sex thing, but also Lucy, the gender thing, excuse me. But also Lucy Sexton said, or quoted, and I think this was you, Deva, make sure I'm not asked to leave part of me at home. Which also uplifts this thing about gender. And only because I know, Deva, that you know me and I know Iega, that that's exactly what he means. He comes with that, and this is who we are. We're just strong people. And I'm going to make sure I'm not asked to leave part of me at home. Wait, let me see if I can find a Oh, Cynthia Oliver, love that. Back then when I was a mess. Iega, come on. We know what Deva meant when she said that. When
I was a mess.
Do you remember Brooklyn, Iega?
Oh, please. Are you kidding? That's like my foundation. Absolutely. You know, I wanted to say something about Black dance, the label of Black dance. I really embrace it because if you look at the Bible and you look at words like chem, or you look at descriptions of people through history, we've always called ourselves as an identifier as Black people. Okay. And so I think I'm really, I remember when I was less comfortable with it because I felt like it was confining my aesthetic, you know. But then again, that's something that I decided to liberate myself about, because of the fact that once I understood the human diaspora, once I understood that Mozart was taught by a Black teacher, once I understood the footprint of Black people throughout history in the world, there is nothing that's not available to us. Nothing, you know. And so Black dance it's reflected in all cultures. It's reflected everywhere, and we can do whatever we want to do.
Unapologetically Black.
Unapologetically Black, and it doesn't exclude anybody else. It doesn't diminish anybody else or whatever. But it affirms what hasn't been affirmed, which hasn't been accurately recorded in history. And that's why I think it's important for us to identify it as Black.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that Alvin worked to be out of that box because he came from a place in Texas that didn't appreciate his Blackness. And it felt limiting to him. And I think he went through, and I've had a few conversations with Alvin about this, where before he left us and went to the next realm, he was understanding his journey and why he didn't associate with certain things that he eventually embraced.
I'm glad that you brought that up, because I think it's super important to contextualize it in the sense that, you know, and I had my struggles too, and I remember my struggles was directly related to how I saw Blackness being treated in the dance culture, societal, and in the dance culture, right? So the messaging that I was getting was that, you know, Blackness is bad, but Blackness is wrong, and then Jamaicanness was being uplifted above Black Americanness. And so I got messages from society that I should cling to that because that's better. And so when I unpacked all of those things and I learned and I educated myself, I said, I am so lucky that people think I'm Black American. How fortunate I am to step into this legacy of amazingness. How fortunate! Like, please don't kick me out the group because I'm so happy to be here. You know, like that's when all of that undoing and that liberation came through. I was just like, yeah, I'm Black and I'm proud, because you know what. You know, I wouldn't be able to do what I do had it not been for what Black Americans have done in order to create a space for me to even sit here and participate in the amazingness that is, you know, that is Blackness.
There's one question that I think we should answer before reading a part of Mama Diane's note is, how do you pass it on generationally? One,
You
and
know,
this is quick. Your time to ask this question, and you have to do it quickly. It's 7:29. What
well,
else is there?
I'm literally in the process of that, and I have to tell you, I saw an interview with Ruby D, where she talked about becoming an elder, and
Mhm.
that elders must learn. Elders are often becoming more quiet as they get older, but they also must learn to speak up at strategic times. You know, and I find that
Agreed.
yeah. So I find that I'm in that space in my life as we are in succession with Deeply Rooted, the work, this continuum of work. I enjoy stepping back and making a way for the young. I also know that I have to listen with powerful intent and compassion and guidance, inside of my listening. And I have to know that I'm sitting before brilliance that is meant to bring forth new ideas, new paradigm shifts, all of that. I'm a facilitator inside of that. So I think that as you get older, I want to facilitate brilliance. You know,
Ashe.
it's less about choreography now for me, even though I still enjoy that, but it's more about facilitating brilliance.
Ibaye, Mama Bernice, doing what you're supposed to do. Deva, quickly.
Yes. So
And come on in, Nick and Kimani. Come on back in.
my company has three missions. It's 1, to create art, 2, to have social change, and 3, to educate the next generation of dance artists. So at the core of my company, it's all about mentorship. It's all about making sure that my revelations, my experiences, just like my sister did with me, where she held my hand and she, carried me through. I'm holding many hands and I'm like, we're going to get through it. We're going to do this. So yeah, I connected so much with what you were saying. I was like, yep. And we teaching about financial literacy. We teaching about how we going to get these grants. We teaching about how we going to set up our websites and all of the things. And then always contextualizing it and rooting it in the non-Western lens, in the Black lens.
Yeah.
So there's no way we can't leave without Mama Diane's quote. Thank you for the power of what you are sharing by going through your history. Your wisdom is a gift to us, really. I am glad this is recorded. Yes. Mama Diane McIntyre. Yes.
Just real quick, she is a golden light in my life. When I was in high school, I used to sit in the door and watch her rehearse, and I was like probably 13 years old, something like that. Brilliant. Forever. I love her forever.
Forever.
Yeah.
Before we cheers, did we miss any shout outs that you need to say? Anybody that you'd like to shout out to, and or is there anything that we should know that's coming up maybe?
The book.
During COVID time.
Yes, we do.
Oh.
The book, Ntozake Shange.
Ntozake Shange's book.
It's coming out, and there's going to be a talk October 18th.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The Barnard is doing something. That's right.
Yes. And so that's the main. It's amazing. Like, it's basically encapsulating a lot of this Black dance history. So
and of course, Mama Diane and Zaki, one and the same. Oh, Iega.
Quick shout out. I'm gonna say a few names: Aaron Duggar, Elena D. Anderson, Crystal Hall, Robin Gray, Jamel Gaines. I could go on. What I'm trying to say here is that there are so many people that have been on this journey that have shaped my life. So many incredible dancers, artists, people. I'm sending a shout out to all of you through my heart and soul. Believe me, I know and love you more than you'll ever know, and appreciate you. So hear that as your shout out, because I love you all.
Yes. Well, cheers to you too. Wait, go ahead, Deva.
I was just gonna piggyback and say I'm definitely gonna do the same thing, because I don't want to forget anybody's name, because it would keep me up at night. I'm gonna all of my friends, all of my funders, all of the presenters, all of the donors, every single person that has made it possible for me to be here. This thank you is for you.
Absolutely.
Cheers to you all that are watching. Don't forget, support Black Dance Stories. The money goes right back to the artists, believe it or not, and help us stay alive.
Forever Black Dance Stories.
Forever Black Dance Stories. Vote.
next week.
Yes. Oh, next week hold on. I forgot. I'm so bad.
Oh,
David Rousseff and
Wonderful.
it's David Rousseff and Melanie Green. No shame of me for forgetting. Sorry about that, my friends. Well, big hug to everyone. Thank you for being with us tonight. Cheers, cheers, cheers. Black
cheers.
Dance Stories, onwards.
Mm. Mm.